The SA Bone Marrow Registry has joined hands with Netcells, the largest and longest established private cord blood bank in Africa, who will be making blood available to patients in need of a bone marrow transplant. Now, this partnership will improve donor matches, especially among ethnic groups. Joining me in our social newscast to talk about this partnership is the Managing Director of Netcells, Shelley Breeden. You're listening to our social newscast with me, Sam Marshall. Shelley, thank you very much for your time. Maybe let's just start off with the very first question and just kind of understand this relationship and this partnership between yourself and the South African Bone Marrow Registry.
Okay, so what we've done with South African Bone Marrow is essentially we're trying to bridge the gap between private and public stem cell banking. So, cord blood stem cell banking. So, in South Africa and in Africa, there is only private stem cell banking. And this means that a client has decided to store the cord blood stem cells for their child, specifically for the use by that child or another family member should there be a match in the future. So it's a type of, a kind of a reassurance and a medical insurance for the future should the child ever need them. But with cord blood, it actually is such a valuable source of stem cells and can be used as an alternative source of stem cells for a bone marrow transplant. So there's a lot of banks overseas, public banks, in which a client will choose to donate their cord blood, and then it goes onto a registry, and from there, the cord blood is no longer theirs. But those are very expensive initiatives to do. And what we're trying to do now is kind of bridge the gap between the two. So with South African Bone Marrow, we are subsidizing the cost of stem cell banking. And with this, we will bank for that family, but that sample is also going to be placed on the South African Bone Marrow Registry. And then in terms of its use, it'll be on a first come, first served basis. Should the family need it first, they will have access to it. But if it's found to be a match to someone in need of a transplant, then those stem cells will be used by that person in need. The parents will then be reimbursed the cost of what they paid for the stem cell banking, but those stem cells will then no longer be available.
For those that don't actually know, just walk us back quickly. Netcells as a business. If you've heard that name, I know it sounds futuristic, but Shelley, what do you guys actually do?
So what we do, we're actually part of a bigger company called Next Biosciences. And we've been around for the past 16 years. We initially started as just as Netcells, as a private stem cell bank, storing cord blood and cord tissue stem cells for clients. And we've stored almost 17,000 samples over the past 16 years. What we also do, and I mean, we've got a state-of-the-art laboratory. We are accredited by an international body, the AABB, but we've also diversified a bit, and we offer a variety of tests along the reproductive journey and the pregnancy journey. So that's a multitude of genetic tests. We also offer services in terms of making products from the placenta, so biological products. And we also, as of last year, we started offering COVID testing. So yeah, we've got a variety of different business units which fall under Next Biosciences. So as you say, it does seem quite sciencey and futuristic, but these things are happening right now. Cord blood stem cells, although people feel that they're quite futuristic, they're being used all around the world for a variety of medical reasons. So, we try and be at the forefront of the medical advances and make it available to people in South Africa.
And I think that's why, to your point, that this is such an important conversation to have at the moment. And it was the thing that really jumped out at me, that this partnership in actual fact improves donor matches, especially among ethnic groups. And it's something, to be honest with you, Shelley, I've never really thought about it. until
Yeah.
I saw this press release, until I engaged with your team around. So in actual fact, there is this issue around donor matching around ethnic groups.
Absolutely. It's a big problem in South Africa because we have got such a diverse group of people, of ethnicities, and when it comes to donor registries, they're very well represented for Caucasian and people of European descent. But as soon as you start looking at different ethnicities, the chances of finding a match are much lower. Even of someone who is of European descent, you're looking at 1 in 100,000 chance. But if you're looking at other ethnicities, they are incredibly underrepresented on donor registries. There's just a lot fewer people that have signed up to be donors. And so, especially in a country like South Africa, where, we really need to look at improving the pool of donors and the ethnic diversity, it's really, really important. And this is what we are hoping to do, to make cord blood banking accessible to more people, but to actually help improve the pool of donors that are available in South Africa for South Africans.
The other thing that we have to talk about, Shelley, is the fact that Netcells has come in and has reduced the fees, the storage fees. I mean, that is, just give us a sense in terms of coming into this partnership and that being one of the benefits. What does it cost on average to be able to store one's cells, and why has Netcells felt that this was such an important an aspect to bring to this relationship?
Absolutely. So, when it comes to processing cord blood and cord tissue, it is a very expensive operation. All the equipment that we use, as well as all the consumables that we use, are sourced from overseas. Because it doesn't, overseas there's a lot of public cord blood banks, so there's a bigger market for it. Whereas in South Africa, it isn't as big. So we source everything from overseas. In order to be internationally accredited, it's also very expensive. So you're looking at around 30,000 rand to be able to store your baby stem cells, which is something that is only certain people can access. And that's why we always say it's a very personal decision what you choose to do. What we've always done is we've offered payment plans in the hope that to make it more accessible to more people. But it is, it can also be limiting in terms of even with a payment plan who can afford it. So what we looked at as a Next Biosciences group was how can we, with the South African bone marrow, subsidize some of that cost in order to be able to make it more accessible to more people. So as a team, we're subsidizing the cost, but in order to be able to make that unit available on a public registry. So that's what we've decided. And in order to store for 10 years on the community bank, you're looking at around 15,000 rand to store the cord blood and cord tissue stem cells.
As a final question, Shelley, with this partnership, how many of these are you trying to bank?
So, you know what? Our capacity is unlimited. We have got, currently, as I mentioned, we've got around almost 17,000 samples stored or clients stored. And as and when we need a new tank, we purchase a tank and we can store more samples. So it really is, we're not limited by how many samples we can store. We are wanting to store as many as we possibly can. So for us, the sky's the limit. We just hope that we can, truly make an impact on the donor pool and truly make it a product that can be more accessible to more people.